Hello there, and welcome to Tales of the Force, a place for fans to tell their Star Wars stories. Joining me today is Tiara, aka Crafting on a Loom. Tiara is 25 years old and she grew up as a Star Wars fan. Her dad is the reason why she loves Star Wars because he introduced her to it. He took her to see Revenge of the Sith in theaters and helped her make her first costume when she was 9. Since then, her love for the fandom has led her to create her own social media accounts where she does all things Star Wars. She cosplays, she collects, she is a gamer. She draws and designs things inspired by Star Wars. She overall loves being a part of the fandom while trying to create a safe place to encourage each other and show each other love. Don't forget, this is Tiara's personal story. It is not my place on the show to dismiss, judge, diminish, or have an opinion on her story. Any views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are her own. Any comments on this episode and story are expected to be respectful. General reminder, Star Wars is a story that deals with hope, but it also does touch on some other things like war, death, loss, slavery and oppression, trauma, mental health, personal injury, abandonment, pregnancy, and childbirth. You are advised to refrain from watching or listening to the YouTube channel or the podcast if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. As always, please take care of yourself and reach out to someone you trust if needed. Please help me welcome Tiara to the show. Hello.
What up? Thank you so much for having me today.
Of course. I'm so glad that you wanted to come on this new thing that I'm doing.
Yeah, bring me along for the journey anytime.
I love it. I love it so much. Okay, so for folks that don't know, and I don't know all of it either, how did you start your Star Wars journey?
I don't know, like honestly, if you asked me this in the beginning, I'd just be like, just because. But I think the more that I think about it, I was needing like a niche, just like something to like have like a passion for, a hobby, and I really love Star Wars. Loved it all my life because of my dad, and a cousin who loved it just as much as I do. Um, and I just wanted to put myself out there and see if anyone like wanted to hang out, be my friend, talk Star Wars, things like that, and just kind of find my people. I also really like art and like drawing, and so I thought the perfect way to kind of just like dip my toe in the waters of social media was to create a little shop and put my designs out there and just see, how it do. And then after that, it kind of just grew into like putting my whole body into other categories like cosplaying and like gaming and things like that. So it's become this whole page with so many different topics that I address or do, activities that I do. So yeah, I mean, if I had to say like one, it just because I was trying to find my people and just have like a really passionate hobby that I enjoyed outside of like work and just like normal adult daily life activities, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think everyone is always kind of looking for like a welcoming, like accepting group of people that they do have some things in common with. And I think Star Wars can be
Mm,
a really great place for that, you
yeah,
know? And I wish it wasn't can be. I wish it was always
yeah,
that way. But I love that you have so many different things that you love doing and that you're going for it. Clearly did not necessarily have the courage at the age that you are to do that. So, like, that's very commendable for you to be like, this is a huge part of me, and
Mm,
I'm not only going to love it for myself, but I'm also going to publicly put this out there.
yeah,
That takes it
yeah,
takes a lot of bravery, especially when you are creative, and everything that you create is so like dear to your heart,
yeah,
So
yeah.
like, yeah, that's just awesome. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for doing that. I'm sure that you inspire so many people to also
That
create
is the
things.
goal. I feel I just saw this post today where it said like don't care if what you post is like too cringy or anything, like because some other people might like resonate with it. And I think that's like what was the biggest fear, was like people are gonna think this is dumb, people are gonna think this is stupid, like people are gonna make fun of me for this. And honestly, it took a couple of years to work up that courage, so it wasn't just like overnight I'm gonna do it, but it kind of was at the same time, because it was like if I don't do it, I'm never going to do it, so now's the time.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think it does take a lot of courage, and it does take time, obviously, to mentally prepare yourself, especially when you're stepping, unfortunately, into the Star Wars
Mhm.
sphere,
Yeah.
especially as a female fan too. I think that adds a whole nother aspect to it.
Yes, it does.
Um,
Yeah.
and so props to you for doing all of that. I love it. I
Thank
love
you.
it. So, do you remember what part of Star Wars? Was it a movie? Was it a book? Or like what? You said your dad helped get you into it. So
Yeah.
what was it that was like, oh, this is my thing? And what kind of got you hooked, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I had kind of like an interesting childhood, so I was always looking for like things to get lost in, and kind of distract myself. And my dad has loved Star Wars all his life just as much as me, probably me more now, because he's very macho and doesn't want to like be like, oh yeah, I'm a geek, I'm a nerd, and I'm just like I don't care, but yeah, he's always loved it. I can remember from my first memories just having like Darth Vader figurines around, having the VHS tapes of like the original trilogy, watching those with him. My cousin was also a big part of that too. He was a huge fan with his dad. So it was just always around, and I loved how different it was from other things that I had watched. Like it really is a galaxy far, far away. It just had like so many different elements that I was intrigued with as a kid, and just because my dad really liked it and I looked up to him too, it was like, oh, if he likes it, this must be pretty cool. Which I mean, in some people's eyes, it's not. It's kind of dorky. But yeah, and honestly, he also really likes creating things, even though he won't admit it to himself. And he helped me create a Jawa costume when I was 9. So I think that kind of planted the seed, I would say, to start this page, at the ripe old age of 24 that I did. So, uh,
I love it. I love it. Um, as a kid, did you have a character that really inspired you or that just had a positive impact? You were
mhm.
saying how it was a helpful escape, and I think
Yeah.
Star Wars is such a great escape for people. And in that, sometimes we find people and characters that we look up to and
Mhm.
give us hope or we want to emulate. And we've talked about on the show before how that can change obviously throughout our life. But when you first kind of got into it, was there a character that you just are like, "Oh my gosh, I love this character?"
Gosh, I don't think I had like a role model character when I was younger. I remember having a crush on young Boba Fett. I don't know why, but when I saw
I
episode
love it.
2, I had the hugest crush on him. I honestly, so Anakin is one of my favorite characters. Like he's up there, right? As he should be. But when I was younger, I thought he was really annoying. I didn't really like him as a character, but as I got older, I just came to understand him more and like the complexity that goes into who he is. Um the only person that I would think that maybe that thought might have passed, like, oh, yeah, like I could look up to this person, or like, oh, this seems to be like a good person, um, I don't know, like to not base my life around, but like, oh, that he says some like good things is probably Qui-Gon Jinn. And even now, he's still it's up there as well. So I would say role model character would probably be Qui-Gon.
I love Qui-Gon. He's
Yeah,
got some good nuggets of like advice and truth. I love him. He's
yeah,
great.
yeah. He's all over my water bottle.
Oh my
That one
gosh, I
quote, yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Did you do that sticker?
No, we did so I have a couple of friends online and we did like a gals giveaway or not giveaway, but like present exchange, Secret Santa is what it's called.
Yeah.
For Christmas and I said Qui-Gon was one of my favorite characters, so she got me a couple of stickers. And then one of my good friends, he got me that sticker. So unfortunately I
Oh,
cannot
I
take the
love
credit for
it.
that, but they are amazing.
Yes. I love Star Wars stickers. They're great. I have an old, it's probably technically vintage now, but
Ooh,
guitar case. My guitar is in it, and I am like in the process of like covering it with stickers.
I
And
love
I would
that.
say probably 80% of them right now are probably Star Wars. So it's pretty cool. And
That's
I have a
really, really
water
cool.
bottle that has some of them on there too.
You could probably frame the guitar case and, like, put it up and, like, keep it for, when you're way older and be like, "Yeah, I did that." Like, that is special.
Yeah, it's cool. And the water bottle, I think all of us have our emotional support water
Yeah,
bottle that has Star Wars stickers on
yeah,
it.
yeah, in all, like, streams or YouTube videos, just anywhere you'll see me, I'll have this particular water bottle with me.
Hey, you gotta stay hydrated. I wish I knew that more when I was younger too.
Yeah, yeah.
So, with Qui-Gon, is there a moment when you have watched the prequels or consumed anything else that's like during that era that he is a part of, that he gave some like really good advice or something that he did that really stuck with you that was like inspiring for you as a person?
Yeah, I mean, I think his character as a whole, not necessarily one particular quote, but like you said earlier, he has some really good nuggets of advice there. The prequels are pretty quotable movies in general, but just his like unwavering devotion, or I don't know if that's a word, but like to himself, like he is just himself. He is unapologetic about it. He is like, I am who I am. I have my beliefs. I'm not gonna let other people's opinions about me affect my decisions on like what I want to do. So just because I'm the complete opposite of that, like I have a ton of anxiety. I'm so concerned with like other people's opinions of me, and I get so wrapped up in that. And so watching his character is just such like a refreshing take of what I'd like to do, of what how I'd like to change or be. So I think that's why I gravitate towards him so much, is just because he's the complete opposite of me.
He's a very calm and collected
Yeah.
person, which
Yeah.
I'm not really either, but I want to be that way too. So I get it.
Yeah.
Um, I love how, like you were saying, like he is very confident, but not in an ego like way. Like he's
Yeah.
very self aware in
Yeah.
a healthy way, but he also doesn't let that limit him growing and changing too. If something came up that challenged what he believed, I feel like he's the type of person that takes that to heart and thinks about it and thinks through
Yeah.
it and then is like, okay, maybe some of the things that the Jedi were doing, maybe this isn't exactly how it should be. He
Yeah.
still questioned things, which I appreciate that too.
Yeah, not just being like a sheep and just following along with whatever whoever tells you what to do. I mean, we kind of see it too, like how you were saying, not in an egotistical manner, but like he is able to be self-aware, but also true to himself. Like, and this is a very, very small example of Jar Jar. He kind of like dismisses him at first, but then kind of sees like his value in their mission and him as a person, as an individual. So yeah, he's just a great character. In general, I could talk about him all day.
Yes, he is wonderful, and I do wish we had more of him. Do you
I
read a lot of the Star Wars books or anything?
Yeah, currently I'm rereading Queen Shadow, with a friend of mine, Carl. He does the Wampa Slayer podcast, and he
Uh-huh.
just, messaged and was like, "Hey, like, did you want to read this book with me? I'm rereading it." So we're doing that together. But I've read Brotherhood. I've read a couple of the Old Republic like books that came out way back when. Um and I really want to read the Apprentice one with him and Obi-Wan. I've read a couple of like excerpts from it, but not the whole thing in itself. So that is definitely on my next like read list.
I love it. I love how, like, even if he isn't in as much the movies and everything because of how the story goes, but
Yeah.
that Star Wars is giving us other avenues to explore that character.
Yeah.
And that's really great. I love that they do that. They give us some other options for characters that we want to know more about. And I know that can be frustrating to some people because they're like, okay, I want to move on, either like way ahead or behind, but you cannot keep everyone happy. That's
Yeah.
impossible,
Yeah.
But there is a good mixture, I think. But for people that still want to explore some of these characters that we were introduced to whenever it was, whether you saw the prequels when you were a kid or whether you saw them when you were an adult or a teenager or whatever, there are ways to still learn more about those characters. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and for the books too, you just hear more of their like inner monologue, which I think is always really insightful. So in Brotherhood, I love that one because I get to see what's going on in Anakin's head or what's going on in Obi-Wan's head, and that's my favorite part about characters is knowing what they're actually thinking in contrast to what they're doing, because I think like the motive is so important to understand the behavior. Um and yeah, so that's why I like reading the books.
That's awesome. I feel like reading it's enjoyable for me. It's not enjoyable for everyone. It is
Mhm.
enjoyable for me, but it still is a habit or like a practice that you have to set time apart for.
Yeah.
The ones that I have read, I have really enjoyed. So I look forward into delving more into that side of the fandom too.
It definitely gets obsessive once you start reading more and more. I think this is like what I've heard other people do is like audiobooks. I'm not a fan of audiobooks. I like to read it myself. But, if time is hard to find, then audiobooks are always an option.
I'm still reading it like in the book, but I also did listen to the Ahsoka audiobook, and I mostly listened to that because I knew that Ashley Eckstein narrates it, and so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
really
yeah.
wanted to listen to it,
Mhm.
and I was really impressed. Like, it was really good, and then because of that, and I enjoyed it, I have been listening to another one that is one of the ones that's about Galaxy's Edge.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed that too. They put the little sound effects and different things in the background, and so I had a couple of things come up where I had to drive for a while to go somewhere, and I was like, this is perfect. Star Wars books would be a great thing to listen to instead of some of my podcast choices. So
Yeah.
I took kind of a little bit of a break and did that, and it was nice. I am definitely a book person still. Like, I love holding a book and reading a book, so
Yeah.
I get that
Yeah.
100%. So, you are a amazing cosplayer, and
Thank
you
you.
do so many great looks and outfits, and you do not only some of the characters, but you make up some of your own. What inspired you to get into that whole realm? Because I know that is a whole nother beast.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely expensive and very time consuming, but I enjoy it so much, so it keeps me going. It has me hooked. I think like I had mentioned earlier, my dad there was two instances, and I think that again, like, that's, like, what really planted the seed as to, like, being an adult and being able to do that myself, um, when he helped me make my Jawa costume because we had, like, gone to the store and we got, like, this brown cloak, and then he had some phone cases, you know, like those like dad phone cases that you carry around. And he gathered a couple of those, and then we got like this belt, and then we like spray painted it together, and that was the like the sash or the satchel that they have going across. And we didn't get a mask or anything, so he just like painted my face, and it was for Halloween. And I just remember really enjoying that time with him, and then just being able to bond with him over the fandom. And we did like this other, it was like an American colonial play thing that I was in that we like worked on the costume together, but just like that aspect of creating something and putting it on and just being able to be a different person for a day, or just like being able to feel like really cool for a day is what gets me why I enjoy doing it, and because I love Star Wars. But when I made my page, it was really small, and I was seeing a whole bunch of these accounts that were doing cosplays, and I was like, people just put on costumes and go to these conventions, and because they can and they're adults, and like this seems like so much fun. So I did kind of like a bound of Hera, and spray painted a couple of things for myself, and after I did that, I ended up going to LA Comic Con, and I saw more people, like all the people there doing cosplays, and after that I was like, okay, this is something that I want to invest like my time and my money into. So here we are several cosplays later. But yeah, it was just seeing other people being able to do it just because as adults, and then also having that seed planted from earlier in childhood. So it just all kind of came together when I made my page.
That's awesome. And I know a little bit of like
Mhm.
how much work it is. I don't know like the full amount because I've never done a huge
Yeah.
costume or anything like that.
Yeah.
But has doing that and getting into that, I know it comes with its challenges. Has it helped like you grow as a person? Like, has it been like a good experience for you?
Yeah, I think it's taught me a lot of patience. I am a very impatient person, and I really want, like, when I have an idea in my head, I just want to do it immediately, and this kind of allows me to take the time to be creative, but also be patient with myself, because sometimes it doesn't always come out perfect the first time, and so it gives me like time to play around with ideas, work out the kinks. Again, I'm not a patient person, so these cosplays can take quite a few times to get right. And I think that's why I like doing original characters too, because it doesn't have to be so accurate, so I can kind of mess up and maybe it still looks cool and maybe it doesn't. But yeah, I think just as a person, just it challenges my patience with myself, which is, I think, the biggest thing that I really want to work on, just like getting older. So yeah.
Yeah. You don't think you're like Qui-Gon, but I see a lot of Qui-Gon in you. I think that is something that he would do too. He'd be like, what can I do that can help with this? You know,
Yeah.
and then he would do something that's, I think, it's a, again, like it's a practice. It's a habit.
Yeah.
It's something that you do that is creative, but it is teaching yourself something at the same time. And I think sometimes as a culture, like our culture misses that sometimes, you know, like you can look at some other ones and there's still hand making paper or brushes or what, or bricks or terracotta or different
Hmm.
things, and
Hmm.
it's an art form to them. It's not
Yeah.
just like a job. And I
Yeah.
think cosplay is clearly an art form, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
also, it does teach that dedication and that patience and
Yeah.
working through something till it's complete, and it's an expression of yourself. Even if it's a character that exists, it's still an expression of you doing that, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
so cool.
Definitely cosplays, making your own cosplays are a labor of love. I don't know anything about sewing. Still don't. Didn't watch a single YouTube video because I feel like I have ADHD and cannot focus on a YouTube video. I'm very hands-on. So that's part of the patience that goes into it, because the more that I want to do, I don't have all the knowledge, and so I need to like learn from other people and watch YouTube videos and follow sewing patterns. So I love being able to like get more skills, but also again just going back to like testing that patience, because I want everything here and now. I want to order something on Amazon and have it now. So yeah, I mean cosplay is very fun but challenging.
Do you have a favorite Star Wars cosplay that you have right now?
I That's such a hard question.
I mean, they're all like your babies, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So it's
I mean, hair is my first one, so that's always going to be just really cool to look back on and be like that. Like, it doesn't look the best, but it got me, to where I am now. And they're all like their own different degrees. So I really like cosplaying as my Ahsoka one in her jumpsuit from Tales of the Jedi. I know most people think it's from like the last season of Clone Wars, but I wanted to do more of the Tales of Jedi because I loved seeing all of those episodes.
yeah.
I really like her look and just how defeated she was at that point, but also regaining her hope, like her life, taking control of her life that at that point. So I like that Ahsoka one for that reason. My original cosplay for my Jedi cosplay, I hand sewed that one. That took me a whole week. I stayed up very, very late hours and then just went to work the next day and then rinse and repeated for like an entire week. So I love that one because I also found those materials at Walmart. I just was walking through the kitchen aisle and they are literally tablecloths and table napkins, and I really like the texture of that. And I saw this dress at a thrift store and it just all came together. So I love seeing my creativity at play, and so I love that one. But then I also like my Inquisitor one, my second sister, because I look like her, I feel like, and I know that a lot of people have said the same thing. So I really liked seeing a character that I could do that looked like me. And I feel really cool in her outfit because she's an Inquisitor and has like boots and red and black on.
I
So
love it. And a
yeah.
cape, right? Like,
Yeah,
who
and a
doesn't
cape.
want a cape?
Exactly.
So this is a little off topic,
Yeah.
kind of, but not. You talked about the Inquisitor costume because people have said that they feel like you look like her, and then
Yeah.
you feel like that too. How has seeing characters like representation in Star Wars meant to you as a fan?
So important. I mean, I'm Hispanic. I'm half Colombian, half Mexican. Ironically, my great grandmother married a German person, so I have a little bit of that too.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I am a person of color, so I don't see a whole lot of my representation. I mean, up until recently, right? But like in the prequels and original trilogy, you didn't really see. I mean, kind of not, and but now it's a little bit more prominent. So for me, it's important because I felt like I couldn't really cosplay as other characters that didn't look like me. So finding Trilla was like, oh, this is so cool. Like someone looks like me and I can cosplay as her and she's being represented and she's in this really cool video game. But going forward, I'm just like, I don't care if I look like them or not. I just like their
Yeah.
outfit and I want to wear
Yeah.
it. But yeah, it's super important because you don't see yourself being represented. So you're like, I can't be a part of this, or I can't be looked at any other way, or all these characters are super cool and have these really cool traits and skills and I'm not being represented in them in that way. So yeah, it's super important, at least for me. I would assume for other people too.
Yeah. It's hard for me to see people not understand the need for that, and I don't understand
Mm,
why you would not want more people to see themselves in a franchise that we love so much. I have a bunch of the Black Series action figures, and they're all the female ones, and that's what I'm like trying to get is all of the women in Star Wars. And when kids come over, I think what really stood out to me and really showed that even more is when they pick out the ones that look like them. They're young, they're too young to
Mhm.
know this really the stories or if they're dark side or light side or whatever,
Right.
but to see that just like happen to where they're like, "Oh, this action figure looks like me." Like
Mhm.
that is so empowering for those kids. Even us as adults, we need to realize, hey, this isn't just about me. This isn't just about my experience. It's also about the experience of others. So that's why I wanted to ask that question, not to put you on
Yeah.
the spot.
No, not at all. Yeah, that's a super important topic to bring up. I think also, not to be like superficial, but just seeing different like body types, but like in the
Mhm.
fandom because it's like, oh, I couldn't dress up as that because I don't have that same body type and I wouldn't look as cool as that person. But then seeing someone who's of your ethnicity or someone who looks like you who is dressed up as that and looks amazing, looks
Yeah.
fantastic, and being like, okay, so like I can do it. Not necessarily that you have to like ask for permission from other people or the
Right.
creators,
Right.
but I think that's an important part for me too, just like struggling with body image issues and being able to see someone who looks like you and being like, I they're doing it. I shouldn't care. Like I could look just as cool as that too. Like it's so great to see that on screen.
Yes. And I love the like there's a lot of female Anakin cosplays. And
Mm.
I love that
Gender bent
too.
ones, yes, I love
Yeah.
gender bent ones. I actually did a Count Dooku gender bent one
I
because
love it. That's
yeah,
amazing.
I love his character because of Tails. We didn't get a whole lot of him in the prequels, of course, but in Clone Wars, he was pretty cool to watch. But Tails, I think Tails really inspired it. So I did a gender bent one because why not? You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, I think it's so cool to think that like we're getting to the point where if people love a character, like even if it's Anakin, like you can dress up as Anakin, but put
Yeah,
your own spin on it. Like it's
yeah.
obviously not screen accurate
Screen accurate. Right, right,
because
yeah.
of that. But I think, cosplaying it it is serious, but like there should be some obviously some fun and joy. And if that brings you joy and that
Yeah,
helps you, like you were talking about earlier, escape from the realities of life,
yeah,
then go for it. I think that's really cool. I'm excited to kind of see more things and to see more people being included in Star Wars so that
yeah.
more people can come to love this galaxy far, far away.
Right,
Like
right.
adding more seats at the table doesn't take away the table from someone else. I think it's just really cool to see more options for people.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
encouraging and hopeful for me because it is a galaxy far, far away. Anything's possible, right?
Exactly.
So you were saying that Hera was one of your first cosplays, and I know she is also a character that you love. Tell me a little bit about Hera's impact on your life.
Yeah. Well, so I didn't know that the Clone Wars existed until like 2018, like the series. I watched the movie, but then I thought I saw some stuff when I was younger, but we didn't have a whole lot of access to like cable and things like that. So, I just kind of didn't know about it. And then around like 2018, 2019, I realized that there was this whole show that was going on. So I was getting caught up on that. And then COVID hit, and then I found Rebels because like Disney Plus was starting to be a thing and whatnot. And so I watched it, and as I watched the show, I just found myself gravitating towards Hera because she is the space mom of her crew, and so many of her traits I feel like I have. Like, I am an 85-year-old woman and a 25-year-old body. I am the oldest of like four younger siblings. So I just related so much to her. And again, like she can be hot-headed, but I think she also brings out the best of each of the people in her crew, right? Like she is encouraging and supportive and patient with them. And so there's just another character that I just wanted to be more alike. So yeah, so that's why I love her.
She is great, and I think she does do that. She does such a great job of seeing everyone's strengths and I
Mhm.
think playing into those strengths instead of just focusing on maybe some of their weaknesses or different things like that.
Yeah,
Was
100%.
there anything in Rebels specifically that was just like really a positive, I don't know, spot for you, like while you were watching it? Like any of the storylines or anything?
Um, Not at first. I think towards the end, and spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, but there's a ton of content everywhere. Of course, Kanan's death, that was like a pretty impactful moment. How Hera dealt with that, how Hera navigated their relationship with everything that was going on in the galaxy. One part that I remember watching and being like, this is this is why I love her as a character is when Sabine was really struggling with the dark saber, and Kanan was really frustrated, and she was talking with him, and she just kind of like listened to his concerns and where he was coming from, and then she was like, "Have you tried to think about it this way? Have you tried to think about it from her point of view? Like imagine where she's coming from." And that's when it clicked. Like that's how she approaches everyone in the crew, and that's why she's such a mom to them, and like you had said, like focuses on their strengths rather than their weaknesses, and then pushes them to rely but also support each other. Like that episode, I know it's very basic, but the Maluvron chore that she gives Zeb and Ezra to like bring them closer together, and at the end of the episode they are closer together, and it's such a childish like way of doing it, but it worked, and I loved watching that play out and seeing her having that like mom stance and like mom pride, like at the very end, like, yep, I knew I knew it would work.
Ugh, I love Hera.
Yeah.
She's great. The Melu run, that's one of my favorite episodes too. I love it. Like I love
Yeah.
how in her mind she thinks it's going to go this way and it goes the complete opposite way, but it still has that like end result. Has there been like a situation where your goal was this and you still got there, but it was maybe the completely wrong direction and then back, or you got to the where you wanted to be, but the journey itself was different than you expected?
Oh yeah, literally all the time. I think it happens all the time. Um, I think sometimes we can be kind of arrogant and be like, I have total control over this, and I know exactly what I'm going to do, and I have it all planned out, and then your plan just goes out the window and none of it works and you do something completely different. And I think you can see it in all aspects of life, like as little as cosplaying, right? Like you have this idea of what you want to do and you do it and some things don't work out, so you have to adapt. And just even with my page, like I didn't see that it was going to go this way, and I've learned a lot of stuff along the way. So yeah, I mean, I had an idea, but has it turned out how I thought it was going to be? Absolutely not. um, but for the best.
Yeah, and you're still at a point that you want to be. It just might be different getting there. And then the Qui-Gon part is like, well, trying to enjoy the journey, right?
Mm, yeah, exactly.
So, if you had advice for someone who is wanting to get into making their own cosplays or just trying a different venture that's creative, I guess, especially within the Star Wars realm, what advice would you give them?
Gosh, I'm still learning a whole lot myself, so I don't feel like I'm like the best advice giver on this. But I don't know, just starting something small, like not taking on like a whole super screen accurate cosplay that has a ton of armor and like intricate detail. I mean, if that's your cup of tea and that's what you want to do, then go for it. I support that. I hope that goes well. But if you don't want to get too overwhelmed or kind of just want to dip your toes in the water, I'd say like start with some closet cosplays, or even just like getting some pieces off of Amazon and just kind of piecing something together and see, how that turns out. And if you want to keep doing more, then keep doing more. Or even if you have to buy your whole costume like off of Cosguy or Magic Wardrobes, there is no shame in doing that. Some people just do not have the patience and do not want to take part, and that's completely okay. Like save your energy for something else that you actually really enjoy doing and that you're passionate about. So buy that cosplay. Sometimes they can be expensive, but yeah, that's what I would say. Just start small and do what you can. Like don't try and overextend yourself.
Hey, I think that's great advice. I think that's a great way to try to start anything is
Yeah.
start small. I have a very hard time with that.
Mm.
And part of it is my ADHD.
Mm.
I see the end result, kind of like we talked about, and
Yeah.
in my mind I have a way that I think I'm going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brain is like, no, we're going to get distracted on this,
Mm-hmm.
or we're going to hyper focus on this,
Oh
or
yeah.
whatever. Trying to rein it back in, like my husband he has this phrase and I love it. He's like, okay, let's not get caught up in the weeds. You're trying to do something and then you notice like these little bitty things and
Yeah.
then you lose the bigger picture. And I
Mhm.
think that's easy to do. Not that you're setting yourself up for failure, but you're setting yourself up, like you're saying, to extend a lot of energy and
Mhm.
then maybe be frustrated that you're not where you wanted to be with
Exactly.
whatever the project
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It is important, I think, to try to start small, even if you have big ideas in your brain.
I mean, I do that a lot too, and then it just teaches myself to be like, "No, you can't do that. You need to, like, start small, you need to pace yourself," because then, like you had mentioned, you lose sight of the bigger picture, and then you kind of lose hope, and you're like, "I can't do this, like, this isn't working out how I want it to do how I wanted it to be," and then you get discouraged and disappointed, and it's just supposed to be fun, and like you said, you get
Yeah.
hyperfixated, and then all these flaws start appearing, and you just give up, and it's just fun.
Yes. It's really hard for me to do something and not think it's going to be a perfect, whatever in my mind perfect
Mhm.
is, result. And
Yeah.
I've kind of done that since I was a kid. So, like, if my mom told me to clean out my closet, I would pull literally as a child, I would pull every single item that was in my closet out into my room. And then I would get overwhelmed, right? But for my brain, like how it worked, which, like I didn't know at the time that I had ADHD, but
Mhm.
I wanted to be able to organize things and I wanted this blank slate, right? And I wanted to be able to then be able to organize and put everything back in, which is you can do it that way. And that's still how my brain likes to do it. But
Mhm.
I would get overwhelmed and then stuff would sit in my room.
Mm.
It would be trashed,
Yeah. Yeah.
for a long time. And my mom would have to say, okay, let's break this up piece by
Yeah.
piece, like by pile. Like, what do you want to do with this pile? And like, she would help me kind of
Mhm.
break that down. And then now as an adult, I'm learning it's okay to do one shelf at a time.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to bring
Hard
everything off
pill
of
to
it,
swallow.
right? So like right now as an adult it really sucks, but I need to organize our pantry. Oh,
Mm.
the worst.
Mhm.
And I keep having to remind myself, Jessica, you do not need to pull every single thing out. You can do one shelf at a time.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
think creating something cosplay, it's kind of the same thing like you're saying. And that is definitely a lesson that we can learn from Hera, I think, for sure.
I love the lady who voices her too. I saw her at a convention, and one of her favorite quotes was like that the hope quote. I don't know exactly by heart, but she's such a great individual. I was able to get her autograph. So not only is her character amazing, but the individual who voices her is pretty great too.
I love that. I love it when the people that you look up to also end up being great people too. Like
Yeah.
that's just like the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
It makes it so much better. So, is there anything that you want to share about your shop or anything like that?
Yes, so I'm actually wearing one of my designs. It's the Lethal Wolf. It says Doom, and it kind of designed it off of like a university jacket. Um, so those are pretty popular. But yeah, I've had a couple of sketches on the back burner. I've loved to draw for a really long time. And that's just kind of where the inspiration came from to start my shop, because I thought maybe this would look cool on a shirt and I want it for myself and maybe other people would want it for themselves. So yeah, I have a shop. It's on my Instagram. If you click on the like Linktree link, and it'll take you there. 20% off your first purchase if you ever want to buy. But yeah,
I love it.
it's very much. It's not. I don't use. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll edit like actual character images, but a lot of the times it's more like kid drawings that I think would look really cute on a piece of clothing. So it's nothing like fancy off of like an iPad or anything like that. It's all not all hand drawn, but most of them are.
That's amazing. I love the Doom. It's got the big letters and then like the wolf, which looks really
Yeah.
cool. Um, for those of you that are just listening on audio, either you're going to have to check out the video or go to her shop and check it out because it is a really cool sweatshirt. And I can tell that it's like comfy and oversized
Oh yeah.
too, which is
Yeah.
awesome. So I'm going to have to check that out too. That's really cool. I like it.
Thank you. Yeah,
And I have looked at your stuff and it's really cute.
this is a champion, so, like, you can kinda see, like,
Yes.
the inside. It's still I've worn it a ton of times. I've had it for, like, over a year now. It's still really soft and it's champion, so good quality.
Those sweatshirts those are great. I have some of those sweatshirts and I love them. And they're like a good weight, but they're not too heavy. I feel like you can wear them pretty much all year. Like if it's chilly, it's still a nice layer you can throw on that's not too hot, if that makes sense. Like sometimes there's some sweatshirts that I feel like you put it on, especially if you're hot natured like I am, and you're like, I can't wear this outside of winter time. But I think those sweatshirts are definitely ones that are a good like yearly rotation. You don't have to change them out. Like you can use them in all the different seasons. So yes, people definitely check out her site. It's really has some cute stuff.
Thank you.
I love it. And the amazing cosplays too, because they're they're just really cool. And I feel like every time I see people that put so much like heart and love into anything that they make, it's inspiring. Like even if it's something that I'm like, I could never do that, or I
Yeah,
don't have the patience to do that or
yeah,
something, like it's still really inspiring, I think, to think of what kind of lights your fire. And if you see someone being creative and living that truth of who
yeah.
they are as a person, it helps you turn around and do that for yourself, like even if it's something different. So I know
Mhm.
I said it earlier, but again, thank you for putting that out there and
Thanks.
showing people that, because I think it definitely does give people hope. I really do. I really do think it's a good, positive thing to put out into the world. So I appreciate it. And I know that there's definitely more people that appreciate it too.
Thank you, that means a lot. Yeah, I mean, being so anxious and, like, so nervous to, like, start this shop, just, like, one person saying it means a lot.
I mean it 100%. So, and
Thank
I
you.
I'm I know that there's other people that feel the same way.
Yeah.
With talking about hope, what do you hope people take away from your Star Wars story?
Um, I mean, it's always important to have, like, passions and hobbies. Like, this pa I felt lost, and I still do. I think a lot of people feel lost, but I was having such a hard time figuring out what I was passionate about, because like, I feel like sometimes I'm a jack of all trades, like, I can do a little bit of everything, but I've never really, like, set myself down and, like, focused on something, and I think my Star Wars page helps me with that. Um, so I think if anything, just being able to find your passions or hobbies and, like, just give in to it, because that's when you're being your true self, and when you're your authentic self, it alleviates so much energy from trying to be something that you're not. So do it anyways if you think it's too, like, cringy or dumb or stupid or whatever, because that's what you enjoy, that's what makes you happy.
Definitely. I think that is a good thing. I think we can get in our heads sometimes and overthink it. And like you said, if it makes you happy and it brings you joy and like helps you become a better person, then do it.
Yeah.
And if you tried it, at least you tried it.
Mm,
You can check that box and move on to the next thing.
yeah.
So that's awesome. So I think my fun question for you is, if you could have any Star Wars bestie, any character in Star Wars be your best friend, who would it be and why?
Oh gosh, that is such a good question. Let me think.
And no pressure. You can take your time. I know it's like a random question.
It's such a hard question just because there's so many great characters and I want all of them to be my besties. Honestly, I would say Qui-Gon. I just I don't know, just being able I just feel like I'd be so supported, and then because of that, I'd feel just so relaxed just to be able to be myself and be able to tell him anything, and, like, he wouldn't pass judgment, but rather just, like, have you tried looking at it this way? Or, like, just give yourself some time, give yourself some grace. Like, just having that person in my life, I think would be really important. So I'd probably say Qui-Gon.
Hey, I think that is a great choice. I think we all need a Qui-Gon in our life
Yeah.
or to be a Qui-Gon in someone else's life. That
Yeah,
that could be the theme of the show today. What would Qui-Gon do for
exactly. That is such a good, like, merch, design. What would Qui-Gon do as a bracelet,
There
a
you go, write
t-shirt?
it down. Nobody listening to this, steal it. It is
Yeah,
now,
it's patented.
trademarked,
Yeah.
crafting on a loom.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think people would love that. They would love it.
I
So,
would buy
yeah.
every portion of it in my shop to
Right?
have it
Me
everywhere.
too. I love it. I love yoga, and I feel like that would be such a good, like, yoga hood. I would so wear that.
That's perfect for yoga, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Before we close out, is there anything else? Tell everybody your handle, where they can find you, all of those things.
Yeah, I've kind of started to go everywhere, go in the crevices of every social media. I am on TikTok. I am just crafting on Elam on Instagram, and also crafting on Elam on YouTube, and that is the name of my shop page. So if you are a big Instagram user like I am, you can go on to my Instagram page. If you use TikTok, I have a link to my Instagram, and then on my Instagram has a link to my YouTube. So I do a couple of live streams with a couple of my friends. If you ever want to tune in there, building Legos, things like that. Shop link is also on Instagram, and then I post all my cosplays on my Instagram as well.
Perfect. I will have that all linked below too. That way people can try to find that even better. Thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it,
Yeah.
and sharing a little bit of your Star Wars story with everyone and with me. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, I love talking with you today, so thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your night too. Bye.
Thanks for joining us today on Tales of the Force. Our stories of hope is the force of this fandom, and they are a powerful ally to each and every one of us. Life creates them and makes them grow. Their energy surrounds us and binds us together. Don't forget, luminous beings we all are, and not this crude matter. May the Force be with you always.